What is up YouTube, and welcome to this Wonder Woman 84 video breakdown, ending explained and Easter eggs video. Much has been made of this movie with its release platform and its place within the wider DCEU. I was hyped for it mainly due to Pedro Pascal playing an 80s grifter version of Maxwell Lord, but the MacGuffin of the movie felt very hollow, and the movie as a whole, I'm saddened to say, felt like a bit of a clunky mess despite early promise at the start of the movie. The decision to bring back Steve Trevor felt like it minimises the badass warrior Diana and was taking up too much of the time of Diana to develop as a character. The adventure, to be honest, it felt like a TV show, and the characters felt like the movie progression was stunted and we're stuck in the past and we cannot see her progress after her supposed return to heroic ways post-Justice League. However, the biggest tragedy was reserved for Maxwell Lord. Now, don't get me wrong, Pedro nailed it, but why was one of the most nefarious and calculating DC villains who masterminded a global anti-metahuman sleeper cell resigned to a simple TV Trump-style grifter who was just a guy wanting a break in the end? Now, we open with Diana at the Themyscira Olympics at the age of 10, and I'm glad to see Robin Wright here return as Antiope, as of course this is a flashback and she is alive here. And to be honest, while it did look amazing due to the great stuntwoman from Cirque du Soleil and such, Diana does learn a valuable lesson as she runs forth and tries to go for a shortcut to win, but is stopped. Of course, she wishes later in the movie, and shortcuts are wishes and such, and the prologue, to be honest, it felt very, very prolonged and took up far too much time, in my opinion, and the opening would have been way better with Diana saving the people across DC. While the movie did not live up to my admittedly lofty expectations, the opening of the movie did look stunning, and by that I mean the second opening in the mall and her being a crime fighter. To be honest, my criticisms largely fall on the story and the script, but I'll get into that a bit later. We have a true superhero moment here for Diana as she zips around town and later the mall, as Patty Jenkins wanted her to have her sort of Spider-Man superhero moment. And this is a very optimistic and upbeat version of a DC movie. Of course, unfortunately, the better DC movie this year was, of course, Birds of Prey. Now, she flies under the radar at the mall and manages to intercept some jewellery robbers who stole black market items from Kozlov Jewellery. The only link to the comics there I can get is a Colonel Kozlov, a general tenuous link. Now, I did find it funny how she took on robbers but had no clue that these antiques were stolen there or needed to be recovered, despite her that literally being her job. Now, in the background of all this, we do see Pedro Pascal's Maxwell Lord. Lord in the comics was introduced as he was under the control of an evil computer that was created by Metron, albeit it was retconned to be later controlled by Kilgore, someone you may know from the Flash TV show, and was later retconned to be in control of the New Gods. He was freed from this and became an amoral villain, but still a bit of a con man. He later became a metahuman during the Invasion storyline, but Wonder Woman 84's version of this character is similar sort of to the Infinite Crisis version, where he was a criminal mastermind and spent years investigating the JLI and getting dirt on the heroes. Lord managed to gain control of Batman's satellite brother Eye. He used this to control humans and turn them into Omacs, humans infected with nanites programmed to kill metahumans. He also managed to control Superman and send him after Wonder Woman, leading her to kill him, and that broadcast was sent around the world, a bit like the latest Spider-Man movie. Now, this is very similar to the satellite used at the end of the movie and the final showdown at the broadcast to get the world to have wishes. Lord, however, is essentially a very, very different character here, and while similar to his original conman comic roots, he's somewhat of a sympathetic character and a bit of a rubbish villain, to be honest, despite Pedro Pascal being brilliant in the role. It's just the writing and the script is just absolutely rubbish here. Now, Diana manages to stop the villains and the robbers here using her tiara given to her after Antiope's death, and we see her head to her apartment in DC as she works at the Smithsonian. Of course, she worked at the Louvre in the modern day, so she's working her way around to the legendary museums. We see photos of her post-war liberating concentration camps in World War II, so she must have carried on her work there, liberating people around the world. And we also see an older Etta Candy, who, unfortunately, due to the age, would no longer be with us, and Trevor Ranch. Now, in DC Rebirth, Diana did live in Virginia while working for the director of Argus, Etta Candy, and reuniting with Steve Trevor. Now, we then meet Kristen Wiig, who is playing Barbara Minerva, aka Cheetah, giving off major Michelle Pfeiffer pre-Catwoman vibes. Barbara Minerva has many different origins in the comic books, and the origins in this movie are wildly different here to anything she's had, really. Now, in the comics, one of her origins saw her being born as a wealthy heiress and getting lost in a secret city and coming across a ritual and was made the avatar for a cheetah god and later became obsessed with stealing the lasso of truth. Now, in her New 52, her origin is a bit more different, as she was raised in a home obsessed with Amazonians and went on to steal a god-killer knife. However, these memories were fake, and Barbara was an antiquities specialist and joined Argus to decipher Diana's language when she arrives there at America. Now, the trek into the jungles did happen, and she did actually become turned into the cheetah herself. Now, Diana and Barbara were friends here, and this whole thing felt really, really horrible for her, as Barbara felt abandoned by Diana, and they did go on to be rivals. Now, in the movie here, she is a bumbling but smart person, and Diana wonders why she doesn't have any friends, and no one is interested in her. Now, she drops her papers only for no one to help her, and she strikes up a friendship with Diana, just like DC Rebirth. Now, one of the artifacts stolen from the mall is needed to be identified by the FBI. This turns out to be the Dreamstone, an artifact that grants a wish to anyone. Now, the Dreamstone was in the comics and used by Dr. Destiny, but is a bit different, as someone can actually use the Dreamstone to use this and change reality. But this has been changed for the movie here, as the movie version is made by the God of Lies, or the Duke of Deception. And in the comics, this character was drafted in to fight Wonder Woman by the god Mars, and in post-crisis he was a henchman of Ares. Now, I did expect the God of Lies to turn up as the film's true villain, manipulating Maxwell Lord in a similar sort of situation as the first movie, but the ending was just completely underwhelming and the action really felt lame. Now, the stone has been around for thousands of years and has been complicit in the fall of every single civilization. It grants any wish so long as the user has had no other wish, but it does take something from you. While Diana seemingly wished for Steve Trevor to return, he does so, but she starts to lose her power and her health. They initially think the stone is a fake, and we even see a cameo from Patty G himself, who wishes for a coffee, and Diana and Barbara go for dinner together. They were indeed friends in the comics, and Steve's watch starts to tick again, hinting at his return. Diana would later save Barbara from a horrible man, and her wish is seemingly granted when she goes back to her office and wakes up the next day agile and loved by everyone. Barbara wished to be like Diana, and Maxwell Lord arrives as he asked for Barbara by name and wants to be a donor and is keen to get a hold of the stone, as Diana arrives instantly not liking him, but Barbara loving him. Now, he invites the pair to a gala later that night, but he arrives at his black and gold cooperative, not a comic book reference, but a reference to oil, of course, being black gold. He's ambushed by his son after seeing his overdue payments and desolate office, as he is all a front. Now he's confronted by one of his investors, Simon Stagg of Stagg Industries. This character was actually a major villain in DC Comics and was responsible for the creation of Metamorpho. Now Stagg is an investor but learned the oil wells were empty and gives him a day to sort out his affairs. Now Barbara, having her wish come true, starts a complete and utter glow up as she arrives at the gala and turns head just like Diana did, and Minerva becomes beguiled by Maxwell Lord as they kiss and she lets him take the Dreamstone to use it for his own ends. All the while, Steve Trevor turns up in a different body, and to be honest, I didn't like him turning up, and it would have been better if they kept his whole return a secret, and his return would have had a massive impact after he said the words that Steve said in the last movie. Him getting used to the 80s was pretty funny. However, Max takes a stone and turns himself into a living Dreamstone. He can now grant any wish he wants, and in return take what he wants from the person who has their wish granted, which he does throughout the movie. Barbara is now super strong as Max tests out his wishes and takes Stagg's shares in the company and makes sure Stagg is out of business. His oil wells, previously not sprouting oil, now start sprouting oil as his business grows into what he wishes it was. Barbara is holding court at work as Diana learns that Max has taken the stone, and Diana and Steve break into his office and learn he has been looking for the stone all this time and that it was made by the god of lies. She tasks Barbara with finding where the stone went as they go to Cairo to find Maxwell. They steal a plane from the Smithsonian, which just seemed so convenient, and it's convenient that Steve can instantly fly a whole entire jet when he was using biplanes before, and she turns the jet invisible, just like her invisible jet in the comics and the Linda Carter TV show. She couldn't fly until the 1980s, and she seemed to have got this power at the end of the movie. Now, Max is in Cairo to steal oil from the new king of crude oil, but he's tricked as the man did sell his oil and only reveals this after the man wishes for his ancestors' land back, and, well, his securities team then gets stolen by Max. Now, we see Diana and Steve come face to face with these forces as Diana gets shot, signaling her waning power, and she saves some children as Egypt descends into civil war. This action, in my opinion, just was awful. It was really, really bad. The CGI was bad, and it just looked terrible with the kids' faces looking like they're dolls that she's just captured, and it looks like the CGI hasn't been finished. Now, Barb tells Diana that the stone has been around for thousands of years and is 4,500 years old and has been used by every major civilization that fell. They find a man who was a Mayan, conveniently, who knows of the stone and has a book all about it, as they see a wrestling magazine that has Jerry the King Lawler on it. Of course, he was a legendary wrestler before being the voice of the Attitude Era with JR. They work out that Max has become the stone and they need to stop him by renouncing the wishes or destroying the stone. Max has become worse and worse, and his wishes are causing chaos as he tries to take a televangelist TV slot. We see Diana's legendary golden armor that was first introduced in the Elseworlds Kingdom Come story, and this movie says how the wearer Asteria was a legendary warrior, and she actually stayed behind to defend the Themyscirians as they went on to the island of Themyscira. Now, we would later learn in the post-credits scene that Asteria somehow survived and was played by Linda Carter, the legendary TV Wonder Woman. Now, Steve actually sees this because the lasso lets you see the truth as well, which is a setup for later in the movie. Now, Max heads to the White House as he learns of the satellite system similar to that of Brother Eye can take control of all broadcast systems and touch people so he can grant countless wishes at once as he heads there. Although Diana goes to stop him, Barbara arrives to stop her as she doesn't want to renounce her wish and starts to dislike Diana because she's taking what she's what she wants so much, and she wants to stop Max as well. And they fight, but Barb does escape with Max. Now, Diana has to renounce her wish so she can get her powers back. She does so, leaving Steve in a touching scene, and she goes to get her armor and head to the broadcast station. Now, Max is granting wishes to the entire world as it turns into chaos and on the brink of nuclear war. Now, Diana arrives as Barbara finally turns into the cheetah after wishing to be an apex predator. Now, this fight scene was great, but it took so long for Barbara to turn into the cheetah that it just was odd, to be honest. And she's defeated, but we don't know really what happens to her at the end. It'd be interesting to see this character pop up later in the future in some way. But we have Max directly similar to the comics at the broadcast device, similar to Brother Eye, as Diana whips him with the lasso and shows the world the truth and what their wishes are causing. Now, Maxwell has a change of heart and reunites with his son, and in one of the cringiest scenes we see Diana meet with a man whose body Steve took over in an awful sort of Lifetime Hallmark movie knockoff. To be honest, the end of the movie felt lackluster, and the villain, while played perfectly, just had no menace, and I kept on feeling like, yeah, is a twist going to happen? It just felt like it was signposted and never actually happened. The movie ran fast as we escalated quickly. The whole dream plot arc, it felt lame to me, and having a man just come back to help Diana, as this should have been her true solo outing, in my opinion. And sadly, we take a step back from 2017's masterpiece. Now, it was positive and things like that, but to be honest with me, it just felt a bit off. I'll be interested to hear what you think down below in the comments. Did you like it? I'd like to know why and what you thought of it. And did you notice any other Easter eggs? But that's it for this video, so please drop a like, please subscribe, and I'll see you soon, and goodbye.